What happens when one innocent question turns into the most explosive fight ever caught on daytime television? In just 30 seconds, a friendly conversation turned into a screaming match that left everyone speechless. This is the story of how country music superstar Luke Bryan stormed off Jennifer Hudson's talk show after a fiery argument that shocked Hollywood to its core. Before we dive into this insane drama, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. We bring you daily videos exposing Hollywood's darkest scandals, the biggest feuds, and the confrontations that celebrities don't want you to see. Don't miss out on any of the chaos. Now let's get into what happened last night. Last night's episode of the Jennifer Hudson Show was supposed to be a celebration of country music and success. Luke Bryan was there to talk about his latest album, his incredibly popular Las Vegas residency, and his continued success as a judge on American Idol. The audience was packed with excited fans. The energy in the studio was electric, and everything seemed absolutely perfect. Jennifer Hudson walked out onto that stage in a stunning gold dress, greeting the crowd with her signature warmth and that million-dollar smile that everyone loves. The audience erupted in applause. Phones were already out recording, and the vibe was incredible. Then Luke Bryan made his entrance, looking totally relaxed in jeans and a perfectly tailored button-down shirt, waving to fans who were absolutely thrilled to see the country superstar in person. He walked over to Jennifer. They shared a warm hug that seemed genuine and friendly, and they both sat down in those comfortable chairs under the bright studio lights. Everything looked like it was going to be another fun, light-hearted talk show interview, the kind of segment that makes for easy viewing and good vibes. But that's not what happened, not even close. Jennifer started the conversation exactly the way you'd expect from a daytime talk show. She opened with those easy, comfortable softball questions that are specifically designed to make guests feel relaxed and get the audience engaged from the very beginning. She asked Luke about his family back home in Georgia, about what it's really like living in Las Vegas full-time and performing those massive residency shows night after night in front of sold-out crowds who paid top dollar to see him. She wanted to hear all about his kids, about the funny and adorable things they say when they watch their dad on television, being a judge on one of America's biggest singing competitions. She asked detailed questions about working alongside superstar judges like Katy Perry and Lionel Richie, about what the dynamic is like between the three of them, about what it feels like discovering fresh, raw talent and helping shape and guide the next generation of music stars who are just starting their journeys. Luke answered absolutely every single question with his trademark Southern charm and that incredibly easygoing, down-to-earth personality that's made him such a genuinely beloved figure in country music for so many years. He told hilarious, heartwarming stories about his two sons and the absolutely adorable and funny things they say when they watch him on TV, how they'll critique his judging style or make fun of his facial expressions. He talked in great detail about the incredible, almost surreal feeling of performing in Vegas every single night, about how drastically different it is from the grueling experience of touring across the country on a bus, about how amazing it is that he actually gets to sleep in his own bed every night, instead of waking up in a different city every morning, feeling exhausted and disoriented. He shared these wonderful behind-the-scenes moments and stories from American Idol that had the entire audience absolutely cracking up and laughing out loud. He talked about contestants who made them cry, about performances that gave everyone goosebumps, about the tough decisions they have to make when choosing who moves forward and who has to go home. He was funny, he was charming, he was engaging, he was warm. He was literally exactly what you'd want and expect from a perfect talk show guest. The audience was completely eating it up, hanging on his every single word. They were laughing at all his jokes, applauding enthusiastically at all the right moments. And Jennifer was sitting there, smiling and nodding along like absolutely everything was going perfectly according to plan. Her producer was probably in the control room, thinking this was going to be one of their best episodes. For about 15 solid minutes, maybe even 20, this interview was exactly what it was supposed to be: entertaining, lighthearted, fun, and full of positive, feel-good energy that makes daytime television work so well. The vibes were immaculate. The energy was perfect. Nobody in that studio, not a single person in that audience or working on that crew, had even the slightest idea that everything was about to go completely and utterly off the rails in the absolute worst possible way. They had no clue they were about to witness one of the most explosive confrontations in talk show history. But then Jennifer's expression shifted slightly, and you could see it happening in real time. She leaned forward in her chair, with this look on her face that suggested she was about to ask something more serious, something deeper, something that required a completely different kind of answer than the fun stuff they'd been talking about. The warm, friendly smile on her face didn't disappear completely, but it definitely changed and transformed from warm and welcoming and friendly to something more curious and pointed and almost challenging. The energy shift was subtle but unmistakable. She looked directly at Luke, made strong eye contact, and said something that would change the entire tone of this conversation in a single instant. Something that would set off a chain reaction that nobody could have predicted. So Luke, I've got to ask you something that a lot of people have been wondering about. And I hope you don't mind me bringing this up. You've had this absolutely incredible career, right? You've sold millions and millions of records. You've won countless awards. You're beloved by country music fans all over the world, and you've achieved this massive level of success that most artists only dream about. But here's what I've noticed, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but it seems like you've always kind of stayed in your lane. You know what I mean? Luke's expression didn't change immediately. But if you were watching closely, you could see something shift in his eyes. His smile stayed in place, but it suddenly looked a little more forced. He tilted his head slightly, as if he wasn't quite sure where Jennifer was going with this question. Stayed in my lane? He repeated, his voice still friendly, but with just the tiniest hint of confusion. What exactly do you mean by that? Jennifer didn't seem to pick up on the subtle warning signs in Luke's voice or body language. She was so focused on the question she wanted to ask that she completely missed all the red flags. She kept pushing forward, elaborating on her point, and digging herself deeper with every single word that came out of her mouth. I just mean that you've been incredibly, phenomenally successful with country music specifically. And honestly, you've mastered that sound and that style better than almost anyone else in the entire industry. Nobody can take that away from you. But here's the thing, you've never really pushed boundaries or tried to expand into other genres the way some other major artists have done throughout their careers. Like, we've all watched Taylor Swift completely and totally reinvent herself multiple times, transforming from country darling to absolute pop music domination. We've seen artists like Beyoncé experiment with country elements and folk sounds, and blend all these different genres together in these amazing, innovative ways. We've watched Dolly Parton cross over into pop. We've seen Shania Twain blur all the lines. Even I've crossed genres throughout my entire career, going from R&B to gospel to Broadway to pop and then back again, never staying in one place for too long. But you've kind of just stuck with the same exact formula, the same exact sound, the same exact style for your entire career, for 20 plus years. Is that something you're genuinely comfortable with? Is that a conscious choice you made? Or is it something you ever think about? Like maybe you wonder what could have been different? Do you ever feel, even just a little bit, like maybe you're playing it a little bit safe by not taking bigger risks? The temperature in that studio dropped about 20 degrees in a single instant. The entire atmosphere changed so fast you could practically feel it physically. The audience, which had been so relaxed and happy and engaged just moments before, suddenly went completely and totally silent. You couldn't hear a single person breathing. You could feel the tension starting to build and spread through the room like wildfire. This uncomfortable, anxious energy that started making everyone squirm in their seats. People started shifting around uncomfortably, exchanging these nervous, worried glances with each other. All of them wondering if they'd actually just heard what they thought they heard come out of Jennifer Hudson's mouth. Luke's smile disappeared completely and instantly. His entire facial expression transformed in the blink of an eye. His jaw tightened so visibly that you could see the muscles flexing. His hands gripped the armrests of his chair so tightly that his knuckles started turning white. And when he finally spoke again after this long, uncomfortable pause, his voice had changed entirely and dramatically. All the friendliness was gone, completely vanished, replaced by something much harder and much more defensive and much more dangerous. Playing it safe? He repeated very slowly, very deliberately, letting those specific words hang in the air for several long seconds. His eyes were locked onto Jennifer's face, searching for something, trying to figure out if she was serious. The last 20 years of my career? Playing it safe? That's your actual assessment of everything I've accomplished? Jennifer must have realized she'd touched a nerve, because her expression changed too. But instead of backing off or changing the subject, she actually doubled down on what she'd said. Luke, I'm not trying to insult you or anything like that. I'm really not. I'm just pointing out that country music has a certain formula to it, and you've absolutely mastered that formula. Nobody can deny that. But some artists take bigger risks with their music. They challenge themselves, creatively. They step way outside their comfort zones and try things that might fail. I'm just genuinely curious if that's something you've ever wanted to do, or if you're happy staying exactly where you are. Luke sat back in his chair, and the look on his face was a mixture of disbelief, rising anger. His voice got louder and sharper when he responded. You know what, Jennifer? I think you're confusing taking risks with abandoning who you are, just for the sake of chasing whatever trend happens to be popular at the moment. I've spent my entire career, every single day of it, honoring country music and respecting the tradition that came before me. I've given fans the authenticity they want, the kind of music that speaks to their lives and their experiences. I'm not out here trying to be something I'm not, just so I can get played on pop radio stations or impress critics who don't even understand what country music is really about in the first place. Jennifer's whole demeanor changed in that moment. The friendly talk show host persona disappeared, and suddenly she looked defensive and even a little bit angry herself. She leaned forward again, but this time, it wasn't with curiosity, it was with challenge. Her voice took on an edge that hadn't been there before. I never said you should abandon who you are, Luke. I would never suggest that. But here's the thing, growth is important in any artistic career. Evolution is important. Staying relevant in this industry, which is constantly changing and constantly moving forward, means being willing to adapt and change with the times, instead of just doing the same thing over and over again for decades. And maybe, just maybe, there's a reason why some artists transcend genres and become global superstars who are known all over the world, while other artists stay regional favorites who appeal to one specific demographic. The audience gasped out loud. And it wasn't a subtle gasp either, it was loud and shocked and collective. That was a direct, pointed, personal shot, and absolutely everyone in that entire studio knew exactly what she just said and what it meant. Several people in the crowd actually covered their mouths with their hands in complete shock, their eyes wide with disbelief. Others looked at each other with these expressions of total amazement, completely and utterly unable to believe what they'd just heard being said on what was supposed to be a friendly daytime talk show. This had gone from an uncomfortable moment to a genuine, full-blown confrontation in a matter of literal seconds, and there was no going back now. The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Luke's eyes widened in absolute disbelief. He let out a bitter, angry laugh and shook his head slowly from side to side. Regional favorite? Are you actually serious right now? Is that really what you just called me? I've sold over 75 million records worldwide. Not in America. Worldwide. I've had 30 #1 hits on the Billboard country charts. I headline massive stadiums and arenas all across the world, not just in the United States. I've won every major award in country music multiple times over. But because I'm not making pop music or jumping on whatever trend is popular this week, I'm just a regional favorite to you? That's what you really think? Jennifer tried to clarify, tried to walk back what she'd just said. But her voice was getting louder too, and she sounded more defensive with every word. That's not what I meant, and you know it, Luke. Stop twisting my words around. I'm talking about cultural impact here. I'm talking about influence that reaches beyond just one genre or one type of music. When people all over the world think about the biggest artists of our generation, the ones who really matter and really make a difference, they think about people who've crossed boundaries and broken down barriers. Artists who've reached audiences way beyond their original fan base. I'm not saying what you do isn't valuable or important, because it obviously is. But there's a real difference between being successful within your genre and being truly iconic across all of music. That was the absolute breaking point. Luke stood up from his chair so fast and so aggressively that it almost tipped over backward. The audience let out shocked gasps, and some people actually screamed a little bit. His face was bright red now. His voice was shaking with genuine anger, and he was clearly barely holding himself together. You want to talk about cultural impact? You want to sit here and talk to me about influence and what matters in music? Fine, let's talk about it. Country music is the heartbeat of this entire country, Jennifer. It's the music of working people, of real people who get up every day and bust their asses to provide for their families. It's the music of folks who don't live in LA or New York or Nashville, but still deserve to have their stories told and their lives celebrated. I've stayed true to that my entire life. And I've built an incredible career on that foundation. Just because I'm not out here chasing Grammy nominations or trying to collaborate with every rapper and pop star in the industry doesn't mean what I do isn't important. It doesn't mean I don't matter. Jennifer stood up too, and now they were standing face to face on that stage. Both of them visibly upset. Both of them completely done with trying to keep things civil. Her voice was shaking too, but she wasn't backing down one bit. Nobody said it wasn't important. Luke, stop putting words in my mouth. I was asking a legitimate question about artistic growth and evolution, about challenging yourself as an artist, and you're acting like I personally attacked everything you've ever done in your entire life. If you can't handle a simple, honest conversation about your career choices without getting this defensive and this angry, then maybe, just maybe, there's some actual truth to what I'm saying. Luke's voice dropped to this icy, controlled calm that was somehow even more intense and more frightening than when he was yelling. You know what, Jennifer? I came here tonight thinking this was going to be a fun, friendly conversation. I came here with genuine respect for you as an artist and as a person. I've always admired your talent, your success, your journey in this industry. But what you just did right here, right now, was disrespectful as hell. You basically sat there in front of all these people, and in front of millions watching at home, and you told me that everything I've built, everything I've worked for my entire adult life, isn't good enough because I haven't sold out or changed who I fundamentally am to fit into your narrow, limited definition of what success should look like. And you know what the worst part is? The absolute worst part? You don't even realize how insulting that is. You don't even understand what you just did. The show's producers were completely panicking at this point. You could see people in suits running around backstage, frantically gesturing to each other. trying desperately to figure out how to salvage this disaster of an interview. Camera operators didn't know whether to keep filming or cut away. The audience was dead silent, absolutely frozen, watching this explosive confrontation unfold right in front of them in real time. This wasn't entertainment anymore. This was real anger, real hurt, real emotions exploding on live television. Jennifer's eyes were blazing with fury, and she absolutely was not backing down from this fight. Sold out? Are you kidding me right now? Are you actually standing there and suggesting that artists who experiment and grow and push themselves creatively are somehow selling out? That's your argument? Artists who evolve aren't selling out, Luke. They're challenging themselves. They're refusing to just repeat the same formula over and over and over again for their entire careers, like it's some kind of assembly line. They're taking risks and trying new things and pushing their art forward. And if me pointing that out to you makes you this incredibly defensive and this angry, then maybe you really do need to ask yourself why that is. Maybe there's something deeper going on here that you don't want to admit. Luke reached down and grabbed the microphone, clipped to his lapel, ripping it off so violently that the wire snapped and sparked. I'm not doing this. I'm not sitting here and letting you trash my entire career on national television in front of millions of people. You want to talk about artists who evolve? Let's talk about artists who stay true to themselves despite all the pressure from the industry to change and to conform. Let's talk about artists who don't need constant validation from people who don't even understand their genre or their audience. Let's talk about artists who actually respect their fans instead of treating them like they're not sophisticated enough or smart enough to appreciate real, authentic music. Jennifer's voice was shaking badly now, and there were actual tears forming in her eyes, though nobody could tell if they were from anger or hurt or both. Don't you dare question my respect for audiences. Don't you dare do that. I have poured my heart and soul into every single genre I've ever touched, from R&B to gospel to Broadway to pop and everything in between. I've worked my ass off to be taken seriously in every single space I've entered. I've dealt with people doubting me, people telling me I couldn't do it, people saying I should stay in my lane, and I've done it all while honoring where I came from and never forgetting my roots. So don't you stand there on my stage and act like you're the only artist in the entire world who cares about authenticity and staying true to yourself. Luke was already walking toward the edge of the stage, but he turned back one more time, and his voice was cutting through that studio like a knife through butter. The difference between you and me, Jennifer, is that I don't need to prove myself by tearing down other artists or questioning their choices or making them feel small. I don't need to make myself feel bigger by making someone else feel like they're not good enough. You invited me here as your guest. You brought me onto your show, onto your stage, and you disrespected me in front of millions of people. You humiliated me on purpose to create drama and get attention. That's on you. That's all on you. Jennifer's producer actually ran onto the stage at this point, trying desperately to calm the situation down, trying to get between them. But it was way too late for that. The damage was already done, and everybody knew it. Jennifer yelled after Luke, her voice cracking with emotion, barely holding it together. I didn't disrespect you. I asked you an honest question. If you can't handle an honest, adult conversation without throwing a tantrum, like a child, that's your problem, not mine. That's your issue to deal with. Luke stopped at the stairs leading off the stage. He slowly turned around one final time, and his face was this mixture of anger and disappointment and complete disbelief. You know what, Jennifer? I actually used to respect you. I really did. I thought you were different from all the other talk show hosts out there who just want drama and controversy. I thought you genuinely cared about your guests and their stories and treating people with dignity. But tonight showed me exactly who you really are. You're just like the rest of them. You're looking for drama. You're looking for headlines. You're looking for anything that'll go viral on social media, even if it means completely humiliating your guests to get there. Congratulations! You got your viral moment. You got exactly what you wanted. I really hope it was worth it. The audience was in complete and total shock. Some people were literally covering their mouths with their hands. Others were looking around at each other in complete disbelief, trying to figure out if this was real or some kind of scripted bit for entertainment. But the raw, genuine emotion on both Luke's and Jennifer's faces made it crystal clear this was absolutely real. This wasn't acting. This wasn't planned. This was two talented, successful artists having a real, explosive fight on live television. Jennifer tried to respond, tried to say something that would make sense of what had just happened. But Luke was already done. He was already gone. He stormed down those stairs, moving fast, his face still red with anger. Security guards tried to stop him, tried to talk to him, but he pushed right past them without even acknowledging their presence. He disappeared through the backstage door, and the sound of it slamming echoed through the entire studio. The cameras kept rolling, capturing every single second of this absolute disaster. This moment that was going to be replayed and analyzed for years to come.